Apple is running an invisible psychological experiment on you right now, and if you aren't paying close attention to the retail supply chain, you're falling right into their trap. With WWDC 2026 literally weeks away, Cupertino quietly wiped the absolute cheapest Mac from existence. They did this so that when they officially raise the price of entry into the Apple ecosystem next month, you won't just accept it. You are actually going to thank them for it. Honestly, you have to respect the hustle, but it is a definitive $100 price hike disguised as a discount. Let's separate the signal from the noise and talk about what is really happening with the highly anticipated M5 Mac Mini, because beneath the marketing fluff, this might just be the most aggressive piece of hardware Apple has released this decade. If you monitor Apple's inventory or check third-party retailers like Amazon and Best Buy, you probably noticed the $599 M4 Mac Mini is completely gone. The entry model with that notoriously cramped 256GB drive has been systematically starved from the global supply chain since April. Right now, if you want a desktop Mac, your baseline entry point is suddenly $799 for the 512GB version. This is not a random stock shortage. According to supply chain data from DG Times, this is a highly orchestrated setup. When Tim Cook walks onto that stage in June, he's probably going to announce that the brand new ultra-powerful M5 Mac Mini starts at just $699. The crowd is going to cheer. The headlines will praise Apple for dropping the price by $100 compared to what is sitting on shelves today. But mathematically, they are artificially raising the floor today just so they can lower the ceiling tomorrow. It is masterful corporate psychology to protect their profit margins on cutting-edge TSMC 3nm silicon. Before you get angry about the death of the sub-$600 Mac, you need to understand what they are actually putting inside the $699 machine because it completely changes the math. Based on the latest intelligence from Mark Gurman over at Bloomberg and reports dropping from the LEC, the baseline M5 is getting an 8 to 10 core CPU paired with a 10 to 12 core GPU. Apple is capitalizing on ridiculously efficient TSMC 3nm yields. We're looking at a raw, unadulterated 30% performance jump over the standard M4 chip. Wait, really? A 30% jump on a base chip? I'll believe it when I see it, but the supply chain chat is loud. The best news is that Apple is finally putting a bullet in the 256GB drive. Offering a quarter terabyte of storage in 2026 was borderline insulting, especially with the ballooning size of local apps and operating system caches. By making 16GB of unified RAM and a 512GB SSD the absolute minimum standard, the entry-level Mac Mini instantly transforms from a basic web browsing box into a legitimate, professional-grade daily driver. What is powering your main setup right now? Are you still holding out with an M1 or M2 Mac? Let me know in the comments because this is exactly the generation that justifies the upgrade. If the base model is a workhorse, the M5 Pro is an absolute monster built to completely humiliate the high-end PC market. Ming-Chi recently leaked the details of Apple's new Fusion architecture for the Pro-tier silicon, and it is a massive departure from their usual playbook. We are looking at a sprawling 18-core CPU. Here is the kicker. 12 of those are high-performance cores with only 6 efficiency cores. Apple is finally taking the leash off. On a desktop machine that plugs into the wall, they don't need to obsess over battery life like they do on a MacBook Air. They are dumping every ounce of thermal headroom into sustained raw power. Add in the new SSD controllers mentioned by Shrimp Apple Pro on X, which are pushing read speeds 50% higher than the M4 generation, and you have a bottleneck-free system. When you factor in Wi-Fi 7, Bluetooth 6, and the staggering 120 gigabit per second bandwidth of the new Thunderbolt 5 standard, this little box can handle practically any peripheral you throw at it. MacRumors forums are already buzzing because Ross Young even noted that the M5 Pro's display controllers will natively support 3 simultaneous 8K displays without breaking a sweat or requiring messy adapters. For video editors, that is a total game changer. The real secret weapon of the M5 Mac Mini, and the reason it's going to fly off the shelves, is what happens when you run complex workloads locally. Right now, running large language models directly on your hardware is the new gold standard for privacy and speed. This is where Apple's unified memory architecture gives them a completely unfair, almost cheating advantage over Windows PCs. If you want to run a massive dataset or heavy AI model locally on a custom-built PC, You have to shell out thousands of dollars for a massive NVIDIA graphics card just to get the required VRAM. Then you have to deal with the inevitable thermal throttling and the deafening fan noise. The Mac Mini sidesteps this entirely by dynamically allocating its system memory to the GPU on the fly. It is a seamless integration of hardware and software that PCs simply cannot replicate at this price point or form factor. Speaking of thermals, let's talk about the physical design and that classic Apple stubbornness. Macotacra has confirmed we aren't getting a chassis redesign. Apple is keeping that gorgeous ultra-compact footprint they introduced in late 2024. But inside, things are vastly different. The ELEC reports that Apple completely redesigned internal acoustic dampening for the top-tier M5 Pro. An 18-core chip generates a serious amount of heat, but Apple absolutely refuses to let the fan spin past 2,000 revolutions per minute under normal professional load. They would literally rather throttle the peak clock speeds by a few percentage points than ruin the silent desktop experience. It's frustrating if you are a benchmark nerd, but for the rest of us, working in total silence is a premium feature you just don't get elsewhere. However, we need to stay grounded and look past the keynote hype. Despite the new raw power, when Tim Cook puts up a massive slide claiming 4 times faster AI performance, take it with a massive grain of salt. It's classic tech marketing. They'll cherry-pick one hyper-optimized script and use it to sell you a machine you might not even need. Let's be very clear about this. If your daily workflow consists of cutting 4K YouTube videos, managing large spreadsheets, doing light coding, or batch editing photos, the standard $699 M5 is going to be total overkill. Upgrading to the M5 Pro for basic content creation is like buying a Formula One car to commute to the grocery store. It will get you there fast, but you aren't even scratching the surface of what the engineering can do. Only professionals running heavy 3D rendering environments, complex local AI inferencing, or massive multi-camera 8K timelines should even consider paying the Pro Premium. Ultimately, Apple is playing chess while the rest of the industry is playing checkers. They squeeze the retail market to erase the $599 price point, set a new $699 standard, and packed it with enough baseline power to make any Windows Mini PC look obsolete. The value proposition is undeniable, even if the pricing strategy was a bit manipulative. This orchestrated supply chain shift is not just a temporary retail maneuver. It is a long-term economic strategy designed to completely lock down the desktop computer industry for the rest of the decade. By systematically starving third-party retailers of the older inventory, Apple has effectively rewritten the entry rules for personal computing. When you look at the market of traditional Windows desktop towers and mini PCs, they are completely unprepared for this level of pricing and architectural integration. Most buyers only look at the sticker price when they enter a store. They see a lower number on a Windows machine and assume they are getting a better deal. Apple knows this, and they have spent the last 2 years designing a trap that makes the traditional PC look like a relic of the past. The strategy relies heavily on changing your perception of value. When the base M5 Mac Mini launches, the conversational narrative online will center entirely around how generous Apple is being. Every major tech review channel, blog, and social media influencer will highlight the shift to a standard 512GB drive and 16GB of RAM. They will call it a massive win for consumers. In reality, Apple has simply normalized a higher base price by eliminating the choice to buy anything cheaper. It is a brilliant trick. If they had simply launched the M5 at $699 while the $599 M4 was still sitting on shelves next to it, the public reaction would have been heavily negative. People would have complained about a $100 price increase during tough economic times. By clearing the shelves months in advance, Apple ensures that the new price feels like a relief rather than an inflation penalty. Are you planning to pull the trigger the second the Apple Store comes back online during WWDC? Or are you going to wait for real-world teardowns and thermal tests?